All right, today we are breaking down Army Doctrine Publication 319, Fires. Now this isn't just some dusty update to an old manual. Nope. This is a fundamental rewiring of how the U.S. Army plans to fight and win on the modern battlefield. It's really all about orchestrating every single weapon, every sensor, and every soldier across every possible domain to achieve one single, overwhelming effect. So let's get right into it.
So let me ask you this. Imagine a battlefield where the fight isn't just happening in front of you on the ground. The enemy is jamming your communications from space. They're launching cyber attacks against your command posts. They're pumping out disinformation to turn the local population against you. And oh yeah, they're firing long-range missiles at your supply lines, all at the exact same time. So how do you fight that? Well, that is the incredibly complex problem this doctrine is designed to solve.
You see, today's major adversaries, they just don't fight in a single dimension. They use a whole combination of methods across every domain you can think of. They're going to use information warfare to try and control the narrative. They'll use what we call preclusion. You've probably heard of it as A2/AD, or anti-access/area denial, basically to keep our forces from even getting into the fight. They'll work to isolate our units, create safe havens for their own forces, and wage systems warfare, attacking the very networks that give us our technological edge.
So here's how we're going to break all of this down. First, we're going to explore this new battlefield and really understand why this new doctrine was so necessary. Then, we'll look at how the actual definition of fires has been massively expanded. After that, we'll dive into the core concept of what I like to call the multi-domain symphony. We'll examine the targeting process that drives it all, and finally, we'll talk about what all this means for you, for the Force.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. Why was this change so critical? Well, for decades, the Army's idea of firepower was pretty straightforward, right? It was mostly focused on supporting the troops on the ground. But the world has changed, and our adversaries have absolutely changed with it.
And this slide right here really gets to the heart of it. Check out the deliberate shift in the language. The Army moved from fire support, a term that, let's be honest, makes us all think of artillery batteries supporting an infantry attack, to the much, much broader term fires. It's not just about cannons and mortars anymore. It's about delivering both lethal and non-lethal effects across every single domain. We're talking land, air, sea, space, and cyberspace. The whole shebang.
And that brings us to the official new definition. The Fires Warfighting Function is about creating and, this is important, converging effects in all domains. Seriously, those are the key phrases to remember. It's not just about one thing hitting a target anymore. It's about bringing multiple different capabilities together at the same time to completely overwhelm an opponent and give us our own freedom to act.
So in the real world, this all boils down to two primary tasks. First, you have to integrate all the different assets you have. And I don't just mean Army assets. I mean joint forces, our multinational partners, all of it. And you do that through a really rigorous process of targeting and planning. Then, second, you have to go out and execute those fires, delivering effects using everything from rockets and missiles to cyber and electronic warfare.
Okay, and this brings us to my favorite way to think about this whole doctrine, the multi-domain symphony. If you really want to grasp this concept, stop thinking about a battle as a bunch of soloists doing their own thing. Instead, picture it as a carefully orchestrated performance, designed from the start for just one thing: overwhelming impact.
In this analogy, the commander, they're the conductor, and their job isn't just to point at the cannons and tell them when to fire. No way! Their job is to orchestrate every single instrument in their orchestra: cyber, space, aviation, special forces, information ops, to get them all to play in perfect harmony, creating a result that is so much more powerful than any one of them could achieve on their own.
Let's start with the basics of this symphony. First, you have cross-domain fires. This is when one section of the orchestra helps out another, like the example here. A land-based electronic warfare unit, let's call them the percussion section, can jam an enemy's air defense radar. So they're on the ground, but they're creating an effect in the air domain, which makes it a whole lot safer for our own planes to fly. Simple, right?
But real power, the grand crescendo of this whole symphony is multi-domain fires. And this right here is the core idea of ADP 319. This is when you converge effects from two or more domains against a single target. So imagine hitting an enemy command post with a cyber attack to screw up their network, a salvo of rockets to destroy their antennas, and an airstrike to take out the building itself, all happening at the same time. The enemy doesn't just have one problem to solve, they have three, all at once, and there's just no way they can counter all of that effectively.
And just look at the incredible diversity of instruments we have in this orchestra. You've got your traditional heavy hitters, your rockets,
missiles, and cannons. But you've also got the cyber and electronic warfare assets, the global reach of space capabilities, giving us GPS and communications, the surgical precision of special operations forces, and the powerful narrative-shaping influence of information operations. Every single one of these is a tool that the conductor can use.
So if the commander is the conductor and all those capabilities are the instruments, then what's the sheet music? Well, that's the targeting process. It's the disciplined, methodical process that makes sure every instrument is playing the right note at exactly the right time. Now, down at the tactical level, we're talking brigades and below, the Army uses a really straightforward process called D3A. It is built for speed and action. You decide what targets are important based on what the commander wants to achieve. You use your assets to detect those targets out on the battlefield. You deliver the right effect on them. And then you assess the results to see if you accomplished your mission. It's a fast, continuous loop. But when you start dealing with the entire orchestra, including, say, Air Force bombers or Navy cruise missiles, you need a much more deliberate process. And that's where the 6-phase joint targeting cycle comes in. It's way more comprehensive because, frankly, the stakes are higher and the capabilities are a lot more complex. It's what ensures that a target found by an Army unit on the ground can be properly vetted, analyzed, and resourced by the entire joint force.
And this right here, this is one of the biggest challenges that ADP 319 is designed to tackle. How does a target that's identified using that fast-paced D3A process get properly handed off to the much more deliberate joint cycle? The doctrine makes it really clear. Land component commands have to have people who are trained in advanced target development specifically to bridge this gap. It's all about making sure there's a seamless flow of information from the tactical edge all the way up to the strategic level.
You know, a massive piece of this integration is all about defense. It's not just about offense. Air and missile defense planning is woven into this entire process from the very beginning. It all starts with the commander identifying the critical asset list, or the CAL. That's everything they think should be protected. But then reality hits. Planners look at the actual resources they have, like Patriot and THAAD batteries, and they produce the Defended Asset List, or DAL. That's what they can actually protect. It's a constant, tough balancing act between risk and resources.
Okay, for our final section, let's bring all this high-level doctrine down to the ground. What does this actually mean for the soldiers, the NCOs, and the officers out there? Why should this matter to you?
The biggest takeaway from all of this is simple. Fires is now everyone's business. For a junior soldier, it means understanding that something as simple as good cyber hygiene, like not plugging some random USB you found into a government computer, is actually part of the Fires Warfighting Function because you're protecting our network. For an NCO, it means you have to train your squad to operate when GPS is jammed and your comms are down, because you have to assume the enemy is targeting those systems. And for an officer, it means you can't just think about artillery anymore. You have to plan operations using the entire orchestra of effects available to you.
And at the end of the day, this comprehensive view of fires is what allows the Army to fulfill its core strategic roles. We use non-lethal fires to shape the environment and hopefully prevent conflict from ever starting. We converge the full power of that multi-domain orchestra to prevail when we have to fight in large-scale combat. And we use a carefully tailored mix of lethal and non-lethal effects to consolidate gains and establish lasting stability.
Look, this new doctrine isn't just a document, it's a whole new way of thinking about modern warfare. It demands that every single one of us becomes a master of our own craft, while also understanding how our individual part contributes to the entire symphony. So the question for you is, now that you see the whole orchestra, which instrument are you going to help master? To go deeper on this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out our other explainers. Thanks for watching.